Well, Sarah, we have a lot we can share about this location. It's still being excavated.
Oh, really?
We are finding things year by year in this location. You can tell just from some of the tape and so forth here that there's work going on. But this is Chorazim, a place that Jesus condemned. And we're going to talk about synagogues here. We're going to talk about some Jewish practices. Let's just note that every country has its own form of government set up. You have a parliament in some countries, and you have a House of Lords, a House of Commons. In Israel, they have what they call the Knesset. Yeah. And Jews still refer to the synagogue as a Beth, and Beth means house, good. Beth Knesset.
Okay.
And Knesset means assembly. So your house of assembly, okay? Mm-hmm. And really that's essentially what church means. Church is a word that means assembly. Mm-hmm. And so we come together, our group, those of us who believe in Jesus, we're an assembly. Now, Orthodox Jews very often call it not a Beth Knesset, but a shul. It comes from the Yiddish, and it's basically the word school. Because a synagogue is not just a place of worship by any means. It's a place of study. It's a place of fellowship. Now, an exception to this are the Reform Jews. Judaism is really broken into three groups. You have Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox. The Reform are those who don't believe the Bible. They go to a temple. Why would they call it a temple when everyone else doesn't call it a temple? And the answer is they don't have any desire to see the temple rebuilt. They don't believe they need to see a Messiah come. They don't believe most of the Bible. They don't believe the miracles of the Bible and so forth. I talked to a rabbi at a Reformed synagogue, Reformed temple, and she told me she'll never talk about heaven and hell because some believe there's a heaven and hell, some don't. Some don't believe in a heaven, some don't believe, and some do believe in a heaven. You have to edit some there. I'm sorry. But anyway, so Judaism is really broken into these different groups. We have, among Christians, you have Catholics and you have Protestants. Well, so it is in Judaism. Okay. You have those who are very conservative. They believe. There are those who believe some, and there are those who don't believe any of it, and yet they like to identify as a Jew, and they celebrate the holidays and so forth. Okay.
Well, before you continue, actually, I've heard before that, like, being a Jew would be like the religion, and then, but like you as yourself, it's not like a race or something like that.
No. Many people don't think of being a Jew as a religion, because this whole nation would call themselves Jewish. All those people who aren't Muslim in background, Palestinian. Okay, so even the Reform, even the secular, and the majority of this nation is secular. Most of these people do not go to a synagogue regularly. Many of the people in this nation would essentially never go to synagogue. There are towns in Israel with no synagogues, and there are a lot of kibbutzim.
Okay.
This kibbutz movement that started over 100 years ago, there was no synagogue in those kibbutzim. So this is a difference that needs to be appreciated and understood. Now, among the Orthodox, there are certain things they do all the time. Certain prayers they pray 3 times a day. And I ought to stress it, maybe that among the Orthodox, you have those who are conservative Orthodox, and you have those who are what we call ultra-conservative Orthodox. So you have different degrees here. So you see in Jerusalem, we have some who have the big payas. You have some who have the tzitzit. You have some, and so forth, and others who do not. So there are different degrees. But all the Orthodox do pray the Shemona Ezra. It means the 18. And every day they pray these 18 prayers.
Oh, wow. Do they all, I'm assuming they all pray for, each prayer is for something different?
Yeah, that's correct. That's exactly right.
18.
And they're 18, except there's not 18. They're 19. Because in the 2nd century, one additional prayer was added. Have you heard me tell this before?
I remember you mentioning it. Yes,
Yeah.
the other day.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they oh yes,
I
we
was
were
very
talking about it.
shocked.
Yeah, you were very
Yes. I
shocked.
was
That's
like,
right.
"What?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every day they pray that the Lord would curse the unbelievers. Let me read exactly what it says. For slanderers, may there be no hope, and may all wickedness quickly be destroyed, and may all your enemies be cut off swiftly. The intentional sinners, swiftly may they be uprooted, broken, cast down, and subdued, swiftly and in our days. Blessed are you, Lord, breaker of enemies and subduer of intentional sinners. Now, it's probably a fact that you'd go ask an Orthodox Jew, are you praying a prayer cursing me every day? They'd say, well, no. But reality, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
What would they say if they answer no? What would they say?
They'd probably say it's just about people who really reject God or really evil or really something, you know. But in fact, they see themselves as God's chosen people. All those who, they won't even say the name Jesus. You realize that? Orthodox, they'll refer to that man or they'll say something, but they won't say the name Jesus.
Is there a reason why?
Because they feel so strongly that he was so evil, he did so much harm. He brought so many Jews out of Judaism and into our faith.
Okay.
Although I ought to stress that Jews who become Christians would not say they brought out of Judaism. Their faith has now been fulfilled because Jesus is the fulfillment of the law and the prophets. So.